All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and SCL Mortgage. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets, who had a very surprising win. Or if you're a fan of this team, then you kind of know, hey, 12-1 on the second night of back-to-backs. Was it that surprising? Was it that surprising that they were able to do something like this? No. This is just who they are at this point. The big game on national TV on Sunday, they're like, we'll get blown out by 24. And the game after that, they just decide, you know what? Let's make up for some lost time. That's just who they are, and it's how it's going to have to be, I think, for the rest of the season. All of their games in the playoffs are going to be on national TV, so they're going to have to figure some stuff out with that. But this was a big win, a very impressive win. 140-127, the most points that the OKC Thunder have given up this season at all. And like I just heard a stat from my brother, they've only given up 120. Like this is like the 8th time, maybe the 9th time or so. That's crazy. That's craziness for a team like this, an OKC team like this that is the best defense in the entire NBA. And Denver made it mincemeat. They look great. Really, really impressive win. Really impressive performance from Denver's offense. Defense, not so much, but when you put up 140, you don't have to do that much on the defensive end in order to make it happen. So good on them for getting it done. Once again, my name is Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports, hosting here the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Marcel Zero's in here earlier. Hey, y'all. Ozer's here. Hello, Ryan. The key was making SGA uncomfortable, denying him the ball by double teaming him once he crosses the halfway line to make him pass and removing the drawn fouls. Totally agree. That was a big deal, and SGA finished with a total of 14 shots in this game after taking 32 the day before. So interesting to see. Now, OKC had just as good of an offensive performance in general, but they could not keep up at the highest level with what the Nuggets were able to accomplish. So interesting that they scored 127 both times, but Denver scored 103 in the first matchup and 140 in the second. Mike P is here. Add Aaron Wiggins to the list of booty ball victims. Gosh, that Jalen Pickett possession was awesome. Just great. And you knew exactly how it was going to go too. Like he absolutely got exactly where he wanted to go, and just a very, very impressive way for him to welcome himself onto this stage again, like against one of the best teams in the NBA. So credit to Jalen Pickett, man. We'll get into it all, but really quickly, got to pay some bills here. This podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by the good folks over at BetOnline, the number one source for everything online betting in 2025. The big tournament in college basketball is coming up here relatively soon, and they're going to have some odds. They're going to have some props. They're going to have some major things that you can go check out over at BetOnline, your number one source for everything sports betting. Make sure to check them out, betonline.ag, where the game starts. All right, let's get into it. The Nuggets, 140 points. Like, that's where you have to start against this OKC defense. And there's a lot of folks, especially a lot of OKC fans, that think, yeah, Denver just ran hot. That's all they did. This wasn't anything crazy. There's some truth to that. Not going to lie. Like, honestly, Denver, the way that they played, very impressive performance. They shot 90% from the line. They shot 56% from three, 18 of 32. They shot 60.5% from the field, 52 of 86. They missed a total of 36 shots, while OKC missed 53 shots. Now, they were able to get some offensive rebounds and make hustle plays and didn't turn the ball over as much as Denver did. But when Denver got up a shot, it felt like they were going to go in. And Denver, like, this is the key difference here for me. Denver generated open shots constantly, or at least good shots with their stars, and then wide open shots with their role players. It felt like the way the Nuggets were getting sorry, Mac, I just see it in the comments. um, shout out to Mac Hodel and shout out to Dr. Van Nostrand. I appreciate both of you. Uh, um, look, the process that the Nuggets were using offensively in this game was fantastic. The way that they were putting things together, it was just so clear that um they were very comfortable attacking this OKC defense. And Jamal Murray embodied that in a big way. He got downhill to a place where he needed to go. He was attacking the rim, finishing some crazy shots, finishing some crazy possessions, maybe ones that he wouldn't necessarily finish all the time, but he got them to go. And the jumpers that he was taking, he was just clearly in a rhythm for this team. And it felt very good, very interesting to watch how he performed there, getting to those spots. Plus 14 in a game the Nuggets won by 13. Jamal Murray he had 34 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and shot 11 of 22 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3, 9 of 9 from the line. A very impressive performance from Jamal Murray, and one where it's just another healthy reminder that when the playoffs come around, it might be a little bit of a different beast than from where the regular season is right now. If playoff Jamal Murray shows up anywhere, then you know that you have a chance if you're Denver. And the way that happened for him tonight or last night, very, very impressive stuff because it's against OKC, right? Like, this is Lou Dortz, this is Shea, this is only 14 minutes of Jalen Williams, and maybe that did have an impact. Jalen Williams, their wing defender, was out after halftime due to a strained hip. But they also have Alex Caruso coming off the bench, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins. These guys are fantastic players, and the same depth that the Thunder are going to be using for their advantage in the playoffs. Like, that's what they're hoping for their advantage to be. And so Jamal being able to go at all of those guys and be successful is very important. This was his last opportunity against this OKC team to have a good game. Opening night, he did not play well. He missed the win that the Nuggets had. This last game on Sunday, he did not perform well, but he got open shots. Like, that wasn't the key. The key was just making them. And last night he made them. Like, it was a very impressive performance. And then, of course, Nikola Jokic. Ho-hum, 35, 18, and 8. 1 steal, 1 block, plus 8 from the field, or from the plus-minus perspective in 40 minutes. What that says to me is 2 things. One, in the 8 minutes that he did not play, the Nuggets were plus 5. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. It's kind of gone under the radar. I was going to share this stat before the game, but decided against it. You know, his off-court net rating since the All-Star break has been like minus 25. Like, the Nuggets have not been able to be successful in the minutes when he was not on the floor. So having a game like this where they've really shown up and played pretty well in the minutes that he didn't play, I think it was kind of abnormal, despite the fact that it feels like Denver's been a lot better without him over the course of, not a lot better, but like have had good moments when he is off the floor, which has been rare. But they did figure some stuff out, and that was nice to see. But more than anything, when Jokic was on the floor, the Nuggets were just playing the exact correct style they needed to. There wasn't a lot of zone in those possessions, but when there was, Jokic was in the middle of it. He wasn't on the perimeter. He wasn't trying to contest both at the rim and on the baseline for threes. He was doing everything that he could in the middle of the zone to kind of bother some things. But then ultimately, what's his biggest advantage when he's in the middle of the floor? It's grabbing defensive rebounds, and he grabbed 16 of them in this game. OKC had 13 offensive rebounds as a team. They did pretty well in that regard. Guys like Alex Caruso, actually, Caruso didn't have any offensive rebounds in this game. That's a big deal. But Cason Wallace had 3. Aaron Wiggins had 1. Isaiah Joe had 2. Usman Zhang had 1, but that was in garbage time. Just in general, though, it sort of felt like the Nuggets did a much better job of controlling the glass. And that was even sometimes with both Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren around him, around Jokic while he was trying to rebound these balls. And that's a grown man move. Like that's going to be the thing that goes under the radar in this game, the rebounding. 18 rebounds is crazy, and the Nuggets just needed every single one of those. The scoring is great. 35 points, 15 of 20. It's more than great. It's spectacular. But just in general, this Nuggets team, the only way they were going to win this game was if they limited OKC's extra margin as much as possible. And again, OKC still had a 127, but the fact that they were able to kind of clear the glass a little bit with Jokic being at the center of that, I do think was important. But then again, like, so was the scoring. Just the off the dribble scoring for Jokic, the jumpers, him being willing to take that 18-footer on a consistent basis was a big deal. Him being willing to drive into the paint, but not like get a great shot at the rim, just get a good shot, kind of in the, like with that half hook that he likes to throw up over a big man that's moving backwards. That was really impressive too. And him not trying to force anything going all the way to the rim, I think was very impressive. Looking at the actual shot chart for him is very fascinating, because so many times Jokic is trying to get all the way under the rim, all the way into the paint, get as close as possible, and you'll see him take a bunch of those shots on a consistent basis. This one was different, although he did get around the rim in kind of that 5-foot range, that 6-foot range, and was there pretty consistently. But he wasn't trying to get under the rim all the time. And like when you get to that place is where you're at the mercy of both Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren, because their hands are so good. So just credit to Jokic for being a very smart basketball player, for knowing exactly how to attack this defense, and then being comfortable getting a good shot without having to try to force his way into getting the best shot possible. Because against OKC, you're not going to get a lot of great shots. You just have to figure it out. Plus says, I'm still bothered by Jokic's lack of effort for getting back on defense or trying to contest shots around the rim. It comes with the territory, right? Like you have such a strong reliance on him offensively, and guys can't give everything in these moments. Like, this isn't a playoff game. This isn't one where you need to be busting your butt trying to get back on defense all the time. And he is the master, I think, and better than pretty much anybody in the NBA, of giving the correct amount of effort. And Dr. Van Nostrand, I think, says it actually really well. Don't think it's lack of effort. He didn't want to get into foul trouble. Jokic had 3 fouls in that first half, finished with 4. And sometimes it's going to manifest itself into thinking, okay, I'm trying to contest the shot. But every time he tried to contest the shot against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Shai drove into him and drew a foul and scored anyway. So you might as well just like give the best contest that you can without fouling, or even like less than that. Know that your fouls are so much more valuable than the other team's buckets, because there's going to be a lot more buckets on the other end than there are going to be your fouls. So this isn't a one-to-one thing here. He has to balance this better than anybody in the NBA because of how reliant the Nuggets are with both his scoring, but also just his presence and his like status, and being able to be on the floor, give everybody confidence, generate good shots for other people, things like that. So it's hard. Like it's not ideal. In an ideal world, you would like to put him into a position to where he can play defense on a consistent basis. But the best way for Denver to do that would be to play him 32 minutes a game and not 40, which they've been doing a lot lately. So interesting to think about. And I totally agree with you that, like, look, his defense hasn't been awesome. But like, you take what you can get in a win like this. Don't Tell Santa Cruz is the pessimist as always and says, good win, but I'm still not confident in this team. Our defensive rating these past 5 games has been a 123.5. And yeah, 123.5 isn't great. That's not a great number. And Denver still has things to work with. But what they did in this game was very notable. They decided, we're going to double SGA at half court. We are going to try to get the ball out of his hands. Last game, they allowed him 32 shots, didn't double, or when they did double, they kind of doubled and then left him in single coverage late into shot clocks and things like that. And rather than kind of go down the same road and let SGA try to beat them a second time, they said, we're going to dare Lou Dort to shoot. We're going to dare Isaiah Hartenstein to make the pick and roll floater. Gonna dare Chet Holmgren to make threes, Alex Caruso to make threes, Cason Wallace and Aaron Wiggins and guys like that, Jalen Williams. And it's funny is that OKC did a pretty good job overall. They did really good. But it was just the lack of shooting from one or two guys that hurt them. And it was the fact that Isaiah Hartenstein, for as great as he was in the first quarter, he had 15 points, 16 points, something like that. He finished with 20, and he finished 8 of 16 from the field. And as Denver adjusted a little bit, as Jokic got a little bit better as the game went on defensively, as guys like Chet Holmgren kind of didn't really play up to their standard, made it pretty easy to figure out, okay, would rather not have the other MVP candidate shooting the ball a whole heck of a lot. Let's dare those other guys. Lou Dort made them pay. He had 26 points. He led the OKC Thunder, 8 of 14 from 3. Really impressive stuff from him. Didn't matter overall because Denver's going to live with Lou Dort shooting contested threes. Now, too many of those were uncontested, and that's where you could start to have some quibbles. But if they're putting themselves into a good position where SGA is not the guy that they're allowing to shoot, it's hard to really do too much. It's gonna be interesting. Dagnall also didn't adjust CT, but that this series would be intense from Platitude. What Dagnall actually did do was very funny. I don't know if you guys heard him talking about this post game, but he was bringing Dylan Jones, their most recent draft pick, one of them, to the scorer's table as a fake substitution to try to slow the game down for the referees when they were giving the ball out of bounds to Nikola Jokic. So they would have to acknowledge the sub, and then Dagnall would just put Dylan Jones back on the bench. They're trying to slow the game down, and that was very odd. So he got a delay of game for it eventually, but that was quite the interesting thing. So yeah, this series would be annoying and we'll talk about that in the second segment a little bit, but this series would be annoying as hell. Lou Dort would be everybody's least favorite player. Shea would absolutely, excuse me. Shea would draw more fouls than he's done in the last couple of games, and people would be pretty frustrated by it. And then the defense that OKC plays would be very irritating. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's take a break. When we come back, I do have to mention the rest of the bench, the rest of the rotation. Murray and Jokic were fantastic, but they didn't do this alone. We'll talk about the rest of the rotation. I didn't mean to quick click that, unfortunately. We'll talk about the rest of the rotation on the other side. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Folks, this podcast, as you know, is brought to you by the good folks over at SCL Mortgage. Are you looking for a great mortgage company that you can trust with hundreds of happy customers and a 5-star reputation? Contact our friends at SCL Mortgage. They can help you with loans if you're self-employed, if you need a down payment, if you're looking for a second mortgage, anything that you might need, SCL Mortgage can help you out with. Call 303-790-2222 or visit myspecialmortgage.com. BetOnline.com. That's 303-790-2222, and let them know that you came from Mile High Sports. All right, let's get back into this thing. Jokic was great. Murray was great. The rest of the Nuggets were also like really good. And there's like, especially when you see stats like this, when you see Denver putting up 140 and you see the crooked numbers that Jokic and Murray put up, like, okay, got to talk about that. Michael Porter had 17 on an efficient 7 of 12 from the field. Russell Westbrook had 16 on 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, 7 assists. Very impressive game. Christian Braun started out slow, didn't shoot as efficiently as usual, but still had 14 points on 4 of 11 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. Very efficient night, or very effective night. And then Peyton Watson off the bench, 16 points, 1 rebound, 2 blocks, 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 4 from 3 for Peyton Watson. Let's start with those 4 guys, and then I'll get to Jalen Pickett and Zeke Naji after that. I thought that Mike was fine. I thought that he was solid. There's still some defensive things with him that you have to wonder about, you have to worry about. The great thing about having Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter is that in matchups like this, you may not need both of them all the time, but certainly having one of them on the floor is a really big deal. And for Mike, the spacing that he provides, the shooting that he provides, very valuable, very consistent. And over these past 2 games, it's been really nice to see him have success against a great defense like OKC. They don't have a whole bunch of big forwards to match up with him on a consistent basis. Jalen Williams, for as good as he is defensively, is only 6'6". Alex Caruso's like 6'4". Cason Wallace is like 6'2", 6'3", kind of in that general range. Aaron Wiggins is like 6'6". Isaiah Joe, when he switched out on them, is like 6'4", 6'5". Like, these guys are smaller. They definitely are. And Chet Holmgren, when he was guarding him, a little bit worse. Like, definitely not as good for Denver in that case. They didn't really have Chet guarding Mike for the most part for that reason. They wanted somebody more perimeter oriented, and they had somebody else guarding Russ. But Russ handled that really well, and I thought Mike handled that pretty well. There were a couple times where Chet was guarding him, and he just went right into his body off of drives and played very physically and did exactly what you need to do against a guy like Chet. You can't be soft. You can't be trying to throw up some finesse stuff. You have to be able to be physical against a guy like Chet, who is great. Like, he's a great player. He was plus 32 or whatever in the game before. Last night he was a minus 20. So the way that Denver pivoted against him was a big deal. And Denver being able to space him out with Mike at the 4 is a big deal too. Russ has to be able to hit shots in order to make that a viable strategy. And he did. 3 of 5 from him, 3 of 6 from Mike, 2 of 5 from Christian. If all of those guys are shooting above 40%, like, it's going to make it a lot easier to play offense that way. Russ's decision-making in this game was really good. Thought that he made a lot of great plays, 7 assists. Some of the late passes that he had on cuts where he would cut, and usually you jump up and finish it right after he makes the cut. That's how Jokic usually gets a lot of his assists, is guys cut, they receive the ball, and then they go up for a layup around the rim. But this was a little different. There was one play where Russ cut from the corner. Jokic was surveying on the middle of the floor. He had a 2-way option, and effectively, like, rather than go to the wing, he dumped the ball off to a cutter and Russ. But I think it was either Chet Holmgren. It was actually Isaiah Hartenstein. Hartenstein would have contested that shot really well and probably blocked it. So he just dumps it off right back to Jokic after Jokic dumps it off to him. And Jokic has a wide open layup as a result, because nobody could really contest it if Isaiah Hartenstein was off his feet, which he was. So it was tremendous setup. And both of those guys working in concert really, really well. Credit to Russ for finding the way in this matchup to impact the game in a positive way. It wasn't like his defense was tremendous in this one, and I don't think anybody really was, so can't really single him out. But it was just nice to see. 16 points, 7 assists, only 2 turnovers, 3 of 10 or 3 of 5 from 3, 6 of 10 from the field. That's a great night. That's a great night, bar none. So very good stuff from Russell Westbrook. And then Christian Brown, who started out really slowly in this game. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 of 11 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3, as I mentioned. They gave him help on the defensive end against Shea. He did get a nice block off of a Shea step back 3. Not sure how he got to the ball that he did, but he did get there and made a nice play. And Christian, he's not going to be able to guard Shea one-on-one, but the fact that Shea has only attempted, I think it was, 8 free throws in this last game and 6 in the game last night. 14 free throws over the course of the 2 games. There have been so many times where Shea, he will go seeking out more contact in those situations. And there were times in this game like he did seek out contact. He kind of jumped into various players. He jumped into Christian at times, jumped into Zeke Naji at times, trying to get the foul. Didn't work. And Denver, I think, knew exactly what he was going to try to do and tried to avoid fouling him as often as possible. And so those are the rare times where SGA is actually missing. Those and the 3-point shots. So Denver's going to have to find more opportunities where they can force Shea to miss. But I don't really think there's going to be a lot. Just the way that he's playing in this matchup, it feels like it's on his terms when he misses and when he doesn't. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves if these two teams do match up in a playoff series. Not sure if Christian is the right defender for him. They're going to have to throw a wave of guys out there, or more likely than not, they're going to have to double, or they're going to have to provide a lot more situations where they are just being aggressive off the dribble. So we will see what happens with that. But credit to Christian for bouncing back. He made a couple of clutch threes in the second half, made some clutch free throws in the second half, just continues to find opportunities to be a better player than he was before. Joe D asks, Ryan, help me understand why it's not an offensive foul when Shea plows into a defender with a shoulder bump push off every time he drives the lane. Happens 10 times a game. So there is a difference in charges. There's a difference in like drives where you're trying to clear out space as an offensive player. If you drive into somebody with your shoulder and they are moving and you go through them, then it is a foul. If they're still moving, it might actually be a blocking foul in that way. If you attack their body and you get into them and using your shoulder, you dislodge them and they are shifted off of their spot, it is not a foul. Trying to articulate this really well on a podcast for me is not great. But I know when it's a foul and when it's not a foul. What Shea does is not a foul. A lot of times it's about the elbow extending. It's about when you're getting in with your shoulder here, and when you use the chicken wing and you actually extend the arm. If you extend the arm, sorry, that looked very bad on the podcast. When you extend the arm into the defender and try to generate space that way, that's a little bit different than when you're using your shoulder and you're kind of using that chicken wing and you're trying to clear out space because you have a right to that space. You do. And Shea has a right to that space as well. So I think, honestly, Denver should be trying to flop a little bit more than they do. And they're not really great at that. They don't draw a lot of offensive fouls. It's not something that they've been very good at. They're just not savvy enough. They're not experienced enough in a lot of these cases. Peyton Watson would be a great candidate to do it because he is like pretty skinny. Jamal Murray has done this before. He does a pretty good job in a lot of these cases. Yeah, no, I didn't have a ton of don't have a ton of. I'm not gonna sit here and try to explain this to you guys. It's still early for me. Um, but yeah, I'm like, look, and Jay Kerr is mad at me. He's saying recommend flopping. Ugh. I'm like, yeah, man. Like, if here's the thing, Shea is leveraging the rules to his advantage. A lot of times he'll attack a guy's hip and he will then jump into you. The jump shot that he had against Russell Westbrook, where he jumps like 45 degrees to the right as opposed to just straight up and down, was ridiculous. And the fact that because he's clearly seeking out contact in that regard, Denver, if they are ready for that, they should be trying to get to a place where when you are like putting them in, like you have to be outsmarting the grifter. You have to be outsmarting the guy. And that's the only way that you're going to win these battles sometimes, because a lot it's going to be ugly. Like I have no doubt in my mind that when the playoffs come around and SGA is getting calls, and he's especially like the one that really bothers me, and Matt will hate me when I talk about this. The one that really bothers me is the one where he drives into somebody's hip and then immediately, just like as soon as the contact happens, just kind of chucks the ball at the rim. Looks like he gets off balance, and then it's not really a basketball play. It's just seeking out the first little bit of contact that you can, and then trying to get to the free throw line as a result. And he does it to make a point to the referees. He does it like, because sometimes he doesn't get the call. He does it to make a point to the referees so that the next time it happens, the next time he does it, they're watching for it. And then he does it every single time. And it's just that drive to the right or left hip of a player and then chucking the ball up at the rim. It's not like the pump fake and then jump into guys, which is a little bit worse. And Jamal did that once in this last game. So nobody's immune to it. Jokic will grift sometimes too. But it's the way to leverage that it was kind of lame. But he's a great player. Like, great players get to the free throw line. And it just happens that SGA's gotten to the free throw line over 100 times more than anybody else this year. That's it. Okay. I haven't talked about Peyton Watson enough. Let me talk about him really quick. 4-4 from 3 is crazy. He played just 6 minutes in the previous game, played 24 last night. Part of that was because Aaron Gordon didn't play and they needed some more size. Part of it was because they have to play Peyton Watson. I made this point on Locked On previously. I think I made it here too. If the Nuggets are going to win a championship, if they're going to advance deep into the playoffs, it's going to be because they have enough defense in order to get there. Peyton Watson's one of the guys that can really help with that. He had 2 blocks off of, like, one was an isolation kind of post-up opportunity by Chet, who turned around and Peyton just sent his shot back. And the other, I believe, was a help side drive that he had. He had a nice block in the previous game as well, and continues to find opportunities to be a rim protector. And he's got to be that guy. He's got to be hustling. He's got to be flying around. And the opportunity is there for him to do so. But the big difference is that usually those guys don't shoot 4 or 4 from 3. Usually those guys don't shoot 16 points on 7 shots. That's a tremendous gap that you're getting there. And he make it happen. He continues to make plays. And if he can continue to do that, like, nobody's expecting him to go 4 or 4 from 3 every time. But if he goes 2 of 4 from 3 a little bit more often than he goes 1 of 4, that's pretty good. Like, you're going to need that spacing. You're going to need that shot making. And he shot those with confidence. It wasn't just like late shot clock stuff. This was some big play stuff right in front of the OKC bench on the road. Peyton showing that he can be that guy. That's really encouraging for the playoffs. I'm not sure how often he's going to get these kinds of opportunities, but the more he gets them, the better it should be. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he provides going forward. He needs to be a guy for Denver. That's for sure. Final thing. Shout out to Jalen Pickett, man. Shout out to Jalen Pickett. Zeke Naji played reasonably well as well. He had 3 assists and a steal. did have 3 turnovers, but was still a +9 because Zeke played well in those minutes, I think, just kind of connecting things for Denver, setting some nice screens for Jamal, things like that. But Jalen Pickett's the guy that, like, I don't think anybody really saw this coming this year. And that's the great thing about sports, is that you don't always, I don't necessarily feel great about Denver's playoff hopes, but I'm not writing it off. And there's a reason why, because sports are crazy. Sports are weird. You don't know what's going to happen. The guys that you previously wrote off or didn't necessarily think were going to provide that much for this team this season, they could surprise you. Like, these are NBA players. They are the best in the world. They know what they're doing. And Jalen Pickett, just 8 points, just 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 steal. Did have a couple turnovers. It wasn't a perfect, clean game from him. But the booty ball possession that he had at the fourth quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, was awesome. He made multiple threes, connects the defense, like, just plays smart basketball, and continues to find an opportunity to make an impact with this opportunity that he's gotten. So credit to him, man. This is awesome. And the fact that he's able to step up in this regard is such a big deal for Denver. He has such a great opportunity now. I don't know if he's going to play in the playoffs. I don't know if Michael Malone's going to end up trusting him, but the more he does this and the more he makes the right play over and over and over again, he's going to get an opportunity. The question is how large of an opportunity and what he does with it when he gets it. He can guard, he can switch, he can rebound, he can box out, he can make plays on both ends of the floor. And the most important thing is he's not going to crumble when he gets those opportunities. He's making these shots. He's looking comfortable and confident. And the confidence is such a big deal with him. So credit to him. He found some great opportunities, and I'm glad to see it. We don't know what's going to happen for this Nuggets team. We don't know. I think people have their opinions. The defense still needs to get better. Natalia says here, Ryan, our defense is still cooked. Be honest, we are not going far with a bad defense. Last year, we had a 110 defensive rating, which was really good. Yeah, it was better. It was definitely better than it is now. Denver's offense is better. That's pretty clear. They were like the 8th best offense last year, and somehow they're the 2nd best offense this year. And so much of, like, Denver's defense being a little bit worse is that they're relying so heavily on Jokic and Murray now that they're not playing enough minutes where guys are just like the Pickett's of the world, the Zeke Najis of the world. Those guys aren't getting, like, they are getting minutes now, but it's not your 9th, 10th, 11th men jumping into the rotation and being like, hey, we're going to be really hyped. We're going to really hustle. The other thing is that OKC is just a great offense. They've been a great offense since, like, I think the last 2 months. They've been the number 2 offense and the number 1 defense. So, like, Denver struggling on the defensive end against this team doesn't surprise me. They have other opportunities, and we're going to see how they handle Minnesota on Wednesday night. We're going to see how they handle the Lakers. I think they play them on Thursday night or Friday, one of the two. And, like, they'll have plenty of opportunities to show that they can be a better defense. Denver's going to have to figure it out. This isn't going to be a thing where, like, the NBA no longer, I think, is a thing where, okay, you don't have a specific offensive or defensive rating in a matchup, then you can't win. It really is matchup based. And for Denver, they just have to find answers. And in this one, they found enough answers. It wasn't great. Their answer was, hey, we have to make a whole bunch of shots. And maybe that's not good enough. So I can understand why you say that. But I do think that they've done enough here to at least let you see, okay, let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance and see what happens. Maybe they just translate their elite offense to this place. Maybe removing Julian Strawther, inserting Jalen Pickett, makes them a little bit more consistent. A little, like, something where that you know exactly what's going to happen. There's no real weak point on the defensive end other than, like, Jokic and attacking him in pick and roll and attacking Murray and Porter in transition and things like that. Those are general weaknesses, understandable weaknesses. And they'll probably get better in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I'm very curious. Going to find out what Denver does from here. But for now, folks, I think that's going to do it. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline and SCL Mortgage. Thank you so much for joining me, for tuning into the live show. Always appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to this video. Check out all the things that we are doing over here at Mile High Sports. There's a lot of good news from the Broncos side of things as they continue to add some free agents, some nice, fun things that are going on there. And we've also got some interesting things going on behind the scenes in terms of trying to, you'll see what happens in just a little bit. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Please hit that like button. If you're on the audio side, 5-star reviews, they definitely help. 5-star reviews absolutely help. I will definitely read some off at the end of next show. Thank you so much, everybody. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys very soon.